Yeah.
Well, you always got there. It's
Highlander.
Highlander.
The only one. They can be the only one.
And it happens this way. If they introduce a new black character, well, you know, then there's a ticking clock on someone else.
Or when you start finding out backstory,
that's it.
when they're like, "Oh, how was your childhood?" Oh, you're gonna die.
Yeah, because we need you to care. So Nicole joined us some ambiguous time ago, and so I say that to say, like, we got our nails into what we wanted to do in terms of having a good base and starting to build an audience, but we realized our voice needed to spread wider, needed a wider range. And one of the great things about running Insight is coming across things that we would not have known before, being kind of turned on to different fandoms and things like that. You got something in particular? No.
I mean,
people were riding for Dawson's Creek and
oh yeah.
Not expect
best one, Barbie Life in the Dream House.
So if we want to talk about the joy part of this, so we
That's the face.
one thing.
I watched like 7 episodes.
it's good. It is good.
It's so good.
It is good. It's really good.
Has anyone else heard of this?
Barbie Life in the Dream House. Nobody.
So you've heard of Barbie, I'm sure.
I've heard of it.
Okay, so Barbie has a series.
Good Lord, here we go.
It's Barbie Life in the Dream House, and basically the premise is it's a reality show, but they're all like dolls. So they talk about, so they live in the dream house, and it's all these like dream house problems. So it's like, oh, your dream house is so shabby, you only have one elevator, and like Midge comes to visit Barbie from Wisconsin, and she's in black and white, and then she doesn't have like her fingers don't articulate because she's an older model. And then she sees like Barbie bend her knees, and she's like, oh my God, you can do that? And she's like, yeah, we can all do this now. But it's really good. And the reason I hooked everybody on this show,
She did.
because I think the entire team.
Y'all check it out.
I remember my exact words being, I ain't checking that shit out. And then like a half hour ago, I'm
It's the
like,
first, and they're
this
short
is-
episodes. They're like,
Okay,
I think
it's
the
all right.
longest one is
It's
like
all right.
11 minutes long.
Oh.
Watch
Too late for
watch
you now.
It's too late.
Watch
It's
the
too
Barbie
late.
in the Dream House episode. It has Star Wars references.
Odyssey.
Yes, it has Odyssey references. It has Indiana Jones references. Like all of the stuff.
And-
Watch it. It's good.
per the Britney doctrine, now you have to spread that to like 6 more
Yes.
people.
It's like the ring, except you don't die.
It's like the ring.
If you needed any more reason to watch it, there's one scene where one character, they're having like some argument. One character runs in from off screen. I heard drama. I ran here as fast as I could. I'm like, I'm hooked. That's the realest shit.
That's the realest
That's
shit.
the realest shit.
So good.
One of those things I wanted that Brittany introduces is, I think one of the expectations that people had about Black Nerd Problems is that, okay, so we're a bunch of writers, most of us Black, all of us from some marginalized community in some aspect. So that means that the only things that we're going to write about are Black heroes, or so the person of the target of this column has to be Black. And I think one of the things that surprises people that comes to the site is that our objective was not to just write about Black characters or Black figures in the media. It was to give a perspective from us on all media, right? So, like Barbie's Dream House, right? It's not something you would necessarily associate with, this is some shit that Black people like, right? But like leading us to that, like the Dawson's Creek thing that Omar brought up. So one of our, and I'm sorry you couldn't be here because I love when France is in the room. But one of our writers in France, what's the best way to describe France? I mean,
Activist teddy bear.
Yeah, activist teddy bears are
With
really
a lot of muscles.
Yeah.
Yes, big activist teddy bears. Probably the best way to describe them. That's awesome. And so we had this series going, which is where the Barbie's Dream House came from. It was like, okay, we're gonna do like these guilty pleasures. We're gonna release each week, right? And so we probably did that for 5 or 6 weeks, where just write something short, something that you don't think is necessarily popular. What was the first one? Yours was the first one.
Lip sync battle and fucking The best shit. I'm gonna forget her name. Forget her name. But she had the best.
Really? Because you spent 8 hours on this article.
I made every single GIF, and I don't regret any fucking moment of it. And they're all still standing there today on the site.
After that, we had someone write on Teen Wolf,
That was
the
key.
TV show.
Yeah.
That was key.
But France, who I just expect, whenever France speaks, and it never is this way, because he's definitely not like, he is not like one thing. Always expected to be just the blackest thing that's going to be said in the room. And it was like, so what's your guilty pleasure going to be? He's like, oh, man, you mind if I do Dawson's Creek? We're like,
You mind if I wild out real quick?
I'm gonna wild out on this Dawson's Creek right quick. And we were like, yeah, sure.
He came back. He like had a short write up. I'm like, look, man, if you're doing Dawson's Creek,
You gotta lean in, man.
you're going on the internet. You're going to give us a little more, but you got to defend yourself. Defend yourself. You're going to die on this hill, sir.
Yeah. And so
Can you explain to them what Dawson's Creek is?
the opposite of what this looks like right now.
Dawson's Creek wasn't bumping when you. Oh God.
Dawson's Creek.
They're all Chinese.
Yeah, it's fair.
Oh,
It's fair.
God.
So Dawson's Creek is.
God.
I literally.
It's
It's
like,
about small town whiteness.
yeah, it's
Yes.
like all it's like this group of teenagers in suburbs. There's like a creek involved. They like live near off of a creek, and it's just their like privileged lives.
Yeah.
They
wanna wait.
like hide.
I'm gonna sing while you keep talking. Keep going.
And like it's like, oh, he likes me, but I like this other guy, and now we're all sad. But don't worry, she stole my boyfriend. I'm upset now, and it's just
It's a teen soap
It's like a
opera
teenage
centered
drama.
around white privilege.
Yeah. So it's it's every person on there is like the person you meet in college that like
You
seeing
avoid?
a black person for the first time.
Oh man.
So for France to like that to be his guilty pleasure was just hilarious in itself, and then he went all in on the write up too. Like I don't give a fuck. Like this is my shit.
Die
right?
on that hill.
So I think
that's
that
all guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna put out a guilty pleasure, you have to be ready to die on that.
yeah,
Be
yes.
ready for people to come for you, even before the article goes live.
And that is especially
They will.
Yeah.
that's especially true because yes, we are. Think of it this way: nothing that we put out there that gets critiqued by the outside world has not ran the gauntlet inside our own house, right?
It is
So it is the Black Nerd Problems Collective is not for the weak, I would
No.
say.
It's killer be killer.
I mean, we have fun, right? Right?
It's all
Everyone walks away laughing.
It's all love. It's like in that way that you tease your cousins or you tease
Absolutely.
your family or you tease like kids. It's like that. It's like you do it with love, but some of this stuff hurts.
You crying to that pillow. That's your time. Crying that pillow on your own time.
Not in the chat, though. Not in the chat.
Although, and yesterday there was the big thing about VeggieTales. Everybody,
Has anyone here seen VeggieTales?
I've seen it, yeah, but they like
Because I don't want to relive this.
Yeah.
I was raised on that.
So that's
big love for
so right, and it's for me as someone that was not raised in a what you would call a religious household, to have we have so many people that because VeggieTales, for those that don't, and I don't really know how to adequately describe it. Nicole, would you be better to describe it? You no.
Weren't you the catalyst for this whole thing?
I like dropping in
VeggieTales is this cartoon series for kids, and it's very Christian centric. So it tells a lot of like Bible stories, but in fun ways with personified
The
vegetables.
song and everything,
Yeah,
right?
songs and stuff, and like the main character are a tomato and a cucumber, and they just like,
You can tell everybody they're like, yes.
and it's like
yes,
a blend
I
of
love
pop, it's like a blend of pop culture and Bible stories.
They have a song about a hairbrush.
Yeah.
I know they were singing it.
They love it. Yeah, that's apparently very popular.
And this is one of the things that happens. So we're talking about something completely different.
We're talking about
We're
working
talking
out.
about working out.
We're talking about working
How
out.
the hell are we on VeggieTales? But
I don't know.
Somebody just said
I
the
was
words
working.
VeggieTales,
And then it was
and
over.
it was like a smoke signal. People just who weren't even online just jumped through like we need
It's
to
like
have this
they
conversation.
heard it.
Yeah, they felt it in their heart.
And I think what our site tries to do, and definitely like what that moment proves, is that I think so many people outside of our community see us as one thing, right? Here's these black people. Here's what they like. Here's how they act. Yada yada yada. And I think we fight really hard, sometimes with our lives, to give the narrative that no, like we are multiplicities, like we do have, we contain multitudes. And I think one of the things we try to do on the site is try to defy that expectation of what our interest is going to be in terms of what's important to us as well. Yes, I mean, the site got started and we still to this day talk about representation a lot, how we are represented in the media, not only like our images, but who's behind those things, like who's the writer of this, who's the director of that. All those things are still very important to us. But I think if we've been successful in something in particular, is showing that we defy the stereotype is too easy to say, that we are complicated individuals, right? We're a complicated collective of people. And I think it's so easy, whether you're talking about, some video going viral of someone, spouting off some racist shit to someone, or we're talking about, state-sanctioned murder of someone else in the street. It's so easy to drill us down to one thing, and this is what this one person is. I wrote an article recently talking about how I fell in love with the show Atlanta. Nicole and I recapped that together on the website. And anyone seen the show Atlanta in here? So one of my favorite characters in TV, probably in the last 10 plus years, is Paperboy, Alfred, the rapper. He is lovable, he is relatable, he is complicated, he is absolutely dangerous when he wants to be, right? And very flawed. But he has so much heart at his character. And that is absolutely the character that would get shot by the police and say, well, he had weaknesses, right? And then get drilled down to one thing. And I think it's important to make that known, right? Make that transparent in terms of what we're doing. So I think those are kind of the central things that we get at. And then, Black Lives Matter exists because we're having fun with it, right? And we get to wild out about a lot of things. We use a language that is comfortable for us, right? And that was one of the things that was difficult in the beginning, right? Especially when our shit starts ending up on Reddit, and we're like, everyone's like, oh, I can't read that because they can't read and they can't write, and this is misspelled and blah 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 blah.
The apostrophe is at the end, son.
Right. It's intentional. It's intentional.
It's perfect. On purpose.
And actually, Nicole, who is the English professor in the room, I know that you actually talked about this in terms of like in your classroom, in terms of how you approach language. And I think it's a similar way to how we kind of conduct it on the site as well.
I think Black Lives Matter gives people permission to read that and to not discount it, because this is how we the way that we're talking now is the way we're going to write the articles, and that doesn't make our critique of the pop culture any less valid or any more valid than the actual critique is. And what I found, one of the things I like about BNP is that it leads into the rest of my life. And so I had a very real talk with my dean about how I'm not going to code switch in meetings anymore, because that's on you. You can figure out how to be comfortable about that, or you cannot tenure me. And also I got tenure.
Yeah.
Hey!
Oh, yeah.
Because it could have gone poorly. But I work in a community college, and the majority of my students are Black and brown. So for me to go into a classroom, for me to write on this website about things that my students care about, because they are all watching television, they are all consuming the same media that I am consuming, and then for me to require us to code switch during our conversations in the classrooms felt disingenuous.
Code switching.
So I have an advanced degree, and I understand how to use the Queen's English and how to pronounce all of my words so that the gerunds have the correct G on the end. I know what a gerund is, but that's not how I talk. I say ain't a lot, and I when we're talking on I don't conjugate the way that one would conjugate if they were writing an academic article, because that's not how I talk. My mom is from the rural South. Like that's the women that I care about are from, like my mom is from West Palm Beach, Florida. My grandmother was from Tuskegee. Like that's the language that I am most comfortable in. And for me to walk into a classroom, it was always trying on a voice, and this is the voice that I'm going to use because this is the voice I'm required to use in order to advance. And I want to say, ironically, I assigned a Zadie Smith article in one of my 101 classes, and it was about switching languages. And the first paragraph is about how she is sad because she cannot get her original tongue back. So she gave up essentially like her Cockney accent so that she could navigate academia more successfully. And now when she goes home, she cannot slip back into that tongue. And I think it was really fortuitous that I assigned it when I did, because it was happening to me. And yet, reading it when I did allowed me to be like, nah, fuck this. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to go to the family reunion and not be able to speak the way that I am comfortable. Comfortable, yes, that's the word. And so I think it's important for, at least for me and my students, it's important that they can read critiques of things written in the language that they actually speak. Because we can work on your grammar later. We can work on this is how you get a job, and this is the language you use in like your resume or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But that's not how you're going to speak on a day-to-day basis. And so for me to teach them that their thought process is less than because of the words that they are choosing to communicate of, that's not what we want to do. And so I really appreciate that part of the language that we choose to use.
It's a hard question with academic teaching.
Yeah.
I always get stuck there.
Yeah.
I think that, there's so many people in the room. I know everyone up here has a story of this, but there's been so many situations where many of us have felt just invalidated, right, by someone else. I used to work a long time ago. I used to work at Cardinal Health. Cardinal Health is a Fortune 50 company now, and I worked basically with a lot of high executives in that time. And at the time, I had locks, and there was a lot of times where I was asked, even though it was my meeting, I was asked to pass that off to someone else to host the meeting. Things like that, because even though I'm wearing a suit and I'm walking in here, because I've got locks that go down to my shoulders, then maybe I shouldn't be leading this discussion kind of thing. And so I think going like to the code switching and how we operate. What I love about Black Lives Matter Problems is that we have pushed ourselves into areas that would not have welcomed us uninvited, right? So whether we are, one of the things that blows my mind is it's a brag thing, but like it still blows my mind that what's the count up to? Are we on 6 or 7 Marvel books now where we're quoted?
You're quoted on 8 at least.
So that was something that blew my mind, and so comic books, there's single issues of comic books typically if they're on a regular schedule coming out every month. Usually once they get to about 5 or 6 or so, they get collected in what are called trade books, like not hardcover, but a collection of those. And what was the first one we noticed? Was it Thor?
Thor and Spider-Gwen.
Spider-Man, and so these are Marvel properties. So the big two, like they print money as far as making comic books, and
he got his own money.
And I was the first time that someone identified, like, you guys got quoted, and you're on a Marvel comic book that's being sold. Like it's not like it wasn't just like a quote on a website. Like this is something that someone bought that has our name as a quote for what we said about this book.
On the front cover.
On the front cover.
Right.
And I remember,
Yeah, right on the front.
I remember I was, the first time I heard that, I was meeting some friends for dinner somewhere, and I had to park on the street, and I think, I don't know if it came from Omar or someone else, like, yo, did you see this? And there's a picture of it, and, this book is blah, 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 Black Lives Matter Problems, and I just sat in my car and I was like, this is unfucking believable on a lot of different levels, right? From the aspect that we started this as a conversation, right? Like we didn't have any venture capital money or anything like that kickstarted us. But This is being recorded.
Yeah.
You're the one that set it up. I know. I ain't gonna shame nobody
This is
else.
street shit, son.
This is street shit.
Straight shit, son.
But
Coach
but
switching.
but really starting from zero, starting from an idea, and then growing. So it was awesome to chart growth and that we've like moved into these spaces. But this is Marvel, who, you know, not that this person making the decision, but Marvel, who, by the way, whose CEO was a big backer of Trump, right? So we're talking about a very, very much corporate entity that is putting our name on their product, and that blew me away. That blew me away. But this is so many people, and not to bring it down again, but like, so many people that look like me have lost their lives because they were in a place that someone didn't think they belonged, right? And so the notion that we are pushing into these spaces that did not invite us, but we're there, and once we're in the door, we're not going anywhere. That blows me away. That blows me away. So I think all of that is important in terms of, if we're in these spaces, then we are our authentic selves in those spaces. And we're not just the avatar for something else, right? Unless you are like the avatar person. So that's been really important to me. We can talk all day, but like, I definitely want to, I don't want to deter if anyone has like questions about things or anything like that, about the website, about stuff that we do.
About us.
About us. Us.
That's not personal shit.
Personal. Don't ask me nothing.
Ask him about his feelings.
You all write for the website?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that's the other thing too. Like it's we're growing it into other things, but we came from a few of us came from some very different places, right? And still like keep our day jobs, right? In terms of what we do. Like so while, make no mistake, we do Black Lives Problems full time.
Unless work is watching.
But this is but the passion of this and the importance of this and I can keep harking back to this because it is relevant. One of the things I've been told most frequently since the election is how important our voice is right now, and that how consistent we need to be and how prevalent we need to be, just to remind people that we're there. Because there is so much being used that is, to deter us, silence us, suppress us, our voices, our perspectives, things like that. And so I've been told that a lot. Like, this is important. Please keep pushing yourself into that. Yeah.
So a lot of what you guys talk about on the site is this sort of obscure, nerdy stuff, obviously. Can you talk a little bit about like individual joy versus collective joy?
Yeah. I'll pass that off because I think everyone has. All of us have written something that we're like, ain't nobody gonna read this shit. This is all me, right?
Just
Just
recently.
recently. Like we've all written that, like, handed this in and been like, I don't know if anyone else gets this shit, but this is my shit.
This is my truth.
This is my truth. Since you have probably written the most recent version of that.
So I did a fake scientific breakdown of thirst.
So you're gonna have to define thirst.
There was nothing fake about that shit. You get
That was
actual
real.
fucking taxonomy.
I don't know how does one define it. Like,
How does
I mean,
one define thirst?
yeah.
I mean, it's attraction. It's
Pull your article
It's
up. I can pull your article up
like
now.
unapologetic attraction to people.
and unapologetically and vocally lusting after someone.
The lust
The lust
Yeah.
is there.
The lust part is
Yeah.
important.
No, I want to. I probably got like 2 clicks. Like nobody read that article, but I had so much fun writing it.
No, it was in the mentions on Twitter.
Yeah.
It was in the mentions. They too, they're, I missed this one. Oh.
But that's not, when you think of a black nerdy site, that's not necessarily what you're thinking of. Like, let me go for this fake. The Latin was real because I downloaded
Yes,
Google.
but that was my favorite.
The Latin?
The Latin was real.
Your article gave me so much joy because as a thirst connoisseur, and two,
A thirstologist.
yes, a
Thirstologist.
thirstologist. What did I say the degree was?
A doctorate in...
CS.
Thirstology.
Oh, it's like
A DS.
Oh,
yeah.
yes,
A DS. And clearly also very much into the, if we're going to go with the scientific, like if we're going to make this legit, then we might as well name this degree in thirst. But yeah, it like ticked all the boxes for me. It was scientific, and I love science. It pulled the Latin, it broke everything down in like the areas of thirst. It broke down each like type of thirst.
Order, class, family.
Oh, yes.
But I think that there's so this is one thing we didn't that Will kind of alluded to before when we talk about like them being the co-founders or the primary voice being like yes, it's a Black voice, but also it's a very masculine voice. And I think one of the things that, to their credit, they've done really well is the voice being diversified has become, there's not just a masculine voice, there's a feminine voice. I talk about motherhood a fair amount because I have kids. And also there's like an unapologetic femininity that is not what one might consider traditional. Like as opposed to, let me talk about all the ways I'm lusting after people on my Instagram feed. It's not necessarily how my mom would define being a lady. And so for me, like it's a joy to get, like an individual joy, it's a joy to get to say that out loud and then to have people be like, fuck yeah, I was thinking that. Like, all right, like cool, I'm not alone. And that feels, I am not alone in that is for me very, very useful because I think that like this is, as Omar said to me yesterday, like the next 4 to possibly, God kill us, 8 years is like there's an isolating feeling that is happening.
It was nice voting for the last time.
But it wasn't nice either.
The results weren't nice. That was also a thing. So we have as a team we use Slack and it's like
Oh god.
it's like a
Dark days,
office
man.
or a corporate chat platform. So all of us are in there and we talk about like what articles we're writing and just checking in with each other. So on election night, everybody was in the Slack chat together. So wherever we were, however spread out we were, because our writers are spread out all over the country, all over the world, I can say. So we were all in it together, and I just to not be alone in that moment, even though I was sitting in my apartment drinking wine straight from the bottle.
Like that's different from any other thing.
Right.
Like it's different.
Usually I put it in a glass.
There's usually a glass.
This night I was drinking straight from the bottle. It was nice because like you were watching the vibe.
Front row seat. I was sending the updates.
Just to have that support, and we were still like popping off jokes, and so it was like laughing through tears, and I didn't leave my
telling
apartment.
jokes about 10 o'clock.
I didn't leave my apartment for that next week until that Saturday when we had the panel. There was a Black Nerd Problems panel that we were doing at Decolonize the Space, and that was the first time I left my apartment after election night because I knew that I could not. The only thing that got me out of that bubble that I created for myself was knowing I was going to see these guys and like people who like my family. So yeah,
I think
I am. I can still take you.
Probably true.
I think definitely to kind of press on something that that Brittany brings up is that for me, who's I have a very scientific approach to things, and I don't lack empathy, but very very pragmatic.
Yes.
My aim was so I'm like, okay, so we're doing these things with the site. The site's going to grow and all that, and I'm trying to think of ways that we can produce more content and more varied content. And I'm thinking on the very technical side of it. The community that we built blindsided me. I was not anticipating that. I was not anticipating that we would essentially, I don't think it's an exaggeration at all, that we would build this family. Not just for the writers and the contributors of Black Lives Matter Problems, but like for the readers that really enjoy us and support us. we had, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but we had basically a column just in the last couple of days that came out on another site that basically just ripped off like our most popular column that's come out. And through all the bullshit and all the theater that happened with it, the encouraging thing that did happen was that we had a number of people coming out in support of us that were known to us and, like unsolicited. And that kind of gave us a little more perspective of where our reaches went, but also for the value that we hold for some people. And I think those are the things that theoretically, naturally should come along with our site growing and things like that, but it's not something that I ever thought or planned for or was ready for, to be quite honest with you. We actually had to change up how we conducted business, and because we realized that we felt, from the leadership staffs of Black Lives Matter Pratt that we were kind of monolithic, and we actually had this community amongst us that wanted to interact, that we knew that we could feed and be fed, kind of thing. So it's one of the things that the staff recognized, like this is something that we need to do because we have built this community, and now we kind of need to be involved in service. So I think that was kind of a surprise for me, but like it's been one of the most positive takeaways from our site.
We have a responsibility to them too. I think that's important too. It's not just purely writing because we want to write about a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Will is making me and Omar go to see a movie tomorrow that we don't necessarily want.
I was down for whatever. I just didn't know we were seeing that one.
Look.
But there's a movie coming out that we should see.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm not disagreeing. I just don't want to see it.
It's not like I give out a lot of assignments that people don't want to do, is it?
What movie?
Get Out.
Get Out.
So we're gonna go see Get Out.
Why?
I really do want to go with a group of.
I'm pretty sure he has a time and everything and tickets are bought. That's how he is.
I don't because I'm from out of town, but
Like, me and Omar just show up to the movies like, what's playing right now?
yo, like the more the merrier for that. Look, and my thing is like, okay, so yeah, we cover a bevy of things, but perhaps if there is a movie that looks like a suspense / horror
No
film
one's disagreeing with him. I need you all to know
with a
this.
black protagonist
And a black director.
and a black director,
And the villains are
and the villains are, scary white people, maybe we should check that out. Thank you.
I mean,
Okay, so I think it's a comedy.
Have you heard him talk
No.
about it?
I know.
Ain't nothing funny about
I get that.
horror in suburban. Ain't nothing funny about that.
He talks about it on the Nerdist. It's like really, it sounds really good.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Word?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the
So
other
I'm
side of
just
things,
saying,
I'm
I
like,
didn't
Lego
see
Batman?
that.
No, they're not gonna Lego
I
Batman.
seen Lego Batman.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Lego Batman.
I seen Lego
I wanna
Batman.
see it.
It's good.
Although, I sent myself to go see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
I will see that and raise you the
the
great
alternate
wall.
reality where there's no black people in Harlem. That one.
Where? Well, no. When they went to the speakeasy, there was a
The
black
speakeasy.
There was a black coated goblin, so she was like clearly a black woman, but she was a goblin the entire movie.
I don't do that.
None.
I don't.
And you just saw like she wore some really amazing costumes and had these like
Black
great
people,
turbans. And then you can see like her one little curly cute lock of blonde hair, and she
Alternative
just walked
facts.
around and was fabulous, but did not a lick of nothing.
I don't do that.
And then Johnny Depp.
And Johnny.
So
Good Lord.
yeah.
And I think like that's still a comfort zone for us is the critique on culture because like there are like Get Out is original for its for its premise, but also for its staffing, right? And it's just you don't see that, especially in major releases, and so we still have a critique on that because the representation, no matter what we talk about, is still. People think it's like, okay, we're going to give you like a couple of these movies, and like Marvel's like, hey, so we'll give you some black characters,
Phase
right?
1, Phase 2.
Right? But it's not like we started at we're at 0, and now we're building everyone up to 10. No, like we start like negative 50,
Yeah.
right? So like we still have a long way to go, right?
Polyester leather.
I mean, well, no, it got like in the 90s and early 2000s, it looked like we were like on our way because you had a whole bunch of like they were like, oh, this kind of stuff could happen.
Yeah.
You know, superhero movies were still bad, but they were happening more frequently with black protagonists. And then out of nowhere, it was like they hit the cap and it was like, stop, no
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And then nothing, and then they started like I guess they closed they shrunk the
Faucet.
funnel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
They
Blade
kept
came
it.
out. Said, fuck all this shit.
Yeah.
And then Blade 3.
Uh,
And they said, no, fuck all this shit.
I
So,
can still watch.
yes, I
I
can.
can still watch it.
so.
Alright, so
Well,
What's that?
Ryan Reynolds has been 3 years.
one thing to go back to your question, one thing that the site does, or that I feel as a writer, is I feel the freedom to write about anything. And that's one way that I express my personal black joy, because I, talking about obscure things, I was like, I'm gonna do a video about Shakespeare. And they're like, okay, go for it. And I'm like, nobody's gonna watch this except me, because I'm talking about like the top 5 worst role models in Shakespeare. Like, it's just gonna be me and like 2 other people. And they're gonna be like, okay, cool.
Couple Shakespeare nerds and
They're like, finally!
Yes, they're like, oh my God, where is this bit?
Shit, man!
well, we keep finding these pockets, and I think the reality is we keep finding these pockets of fandoms or interests, right? And I think one is pressing on things that people didn't anticipate that would be popular. So it's one of those things like, oh yeah, I dig that too, and I dig that too. And I don't think that people anticipate it to come from us, right? And so if you're, if you were told, hey, there's this really popular video about this woman talking about, these Shakespearean, plots or these characters or whatever from Shakespeare, would it automatically enter your mind that this is a black woman that was doing it? Maybe not, right? So I think that we are kind of pushing against, a lot of those boundaries in terms of anticipation of where it comes from. Because the reality is we're interested in everything, right? And we're unabashed in sharing that. As far as what's one of yours that was like your personal joy, like no one's gonna even.
Everybody loves what the fuck I do.
Well, there's.
No ego there.
It's probably the.
It's a crime on the inside.
Yeah.
Probably the lip sync battle.
Yeah.
I think it's probably that one because I spent like 6 hours making those videos.
So-
Contextualize, we were all in a room
Yeah.
together, and
Yeah.
he was on his computer
Making
for
those-
literally 7 hours.
Yeah, it's not hyperbole. It's real shit. And at 3:00 in the morning, I'm like, Omar, are you still working on this fucking
Yeah.
article?
I was
Yes.
making a
The
gift
answer is
set,
yes.
motherfucker. 2 by 2 by 2. Had to get the right moment. Had to pull that
The
shit
lip
into.
sync.
It looked good though. It
Thank
looked
you.
good.
Yeah, it looked immaculate. It looked immaculate for your 12 people in the planned audience that you.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Sometimes.
I don't
No
know.
numbers.
I don't know what I would have. I think maybe my most recent one was. Anyone seen any of the Underworld movies?
That was.
So I wrote an article, and I think the title of it was.
Kate Beckinsale.
Every time I watch Underworld, I feel like Kate Beckinsale wants to break up with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she seems like the least interested protagonist of like a badass action film that I've ever seen. So that one was for me because I feel that personally. Like I watched Underworld and I'm just like, I don't think Kate's very into me. But like, so I think we have those moments. But then, of course, just like as these other examples, you get a few people that are just like, yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking. That's exactly what I
Really, that's all you need. That's all you need. It's just
Yeah.
It's like I would say when I was talking about cosplay and stuff, and I was saying that like something like this site, Black Nerd Problems, it serves as a kind of bat signal because we throw these articles out there, and all it takes, like one person will see it, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe there are other black people or other people of color who are interested in the same thing. Yes, where are you? What else do you have?
Right.
Like Barbie Life in the Dream House.
He's gonna keep coming back.
I am.
It's gonna circle back.
Everything revolves around
Full
it.
circle.
Full circle.
Brenda, can you talk about? We've talked about cosplay, and I think now those that know have like at least a grasp of it. Being black in the cosplay community,
I'm glad you circled back to me.
being black in the cosplay community, and like all the implications for, especially for characters that are not traditionally coded as black as well.
Right. So, when I first got into cosplay, it was when I was in high school, all of my other cosplay / like deep nerd friends were all white. And we were planning on going to this convention and we were all gonna dress up. And so I had like a whole list of characters and I was like, oh, well, maybe I can do this costume, maybe I can do that costume, maybe I can do this costume. And my friend, she was like, but none of those characters are black. So maybe you should think about this character or this character. And we were just focused on like anime characters. So she started naming all of this obscure stuff.
Don't
And I
you
was like,
Storm?
who is this? No, just anime, which is already
Oh,
like,
jeez.
so okay,
Yeah.
you're already, I was like, well, Sailor Moon isn't white, she's Japanese. So I mean, what are we doing here? But that was like the first thing I ran into, and this idea that you can only cosplay people who look exactly like you, or you can only dress as people who look exactly like you. Which for anyone who is not fair-skinned, it's like you have, and thin, you have like
thin.
thin people.
Body image being a big,
Yeah.
big part of that. Too.
Except, well, on the only exception you saw this was at my first convention and my first few conventions, you always saw a big white dude dressed like Sailor Moon.
Well,
And everybody loved it. But if anybody else went against like the norm of a character,
did he?
no, that would be like that's like the trifecta.
Did he wash with the crystals of the moon to the rest?
But and as a cosplayer of color, and especially as a black cosplayer, you can feel very alone. You can feel like there is no community for you. And 2 years ago, in 2015, the hashtag 28 Days of Black Cosplay started, and it goes through like the entire month of February, and people just share all of these pictures of black cosplayers, and it doesn't matter like what character you're dressed as, whether it's like point by point replica of the costume, like you read through every single comic book you could find, and you took actual measurements, and you like got every detail right, or if it's like a mashup of two different characters. There was one, it was like Django Fett.
Oh.
And it was a mashup of the character Django from Django on whatever
And Boba Fett. Yeah.
in his like blue suit, but then with the helmet of
Boba
the,
Fett. Yeah.
No, his father, or the original.
Oh,
Django
the
Fett.
original.
So it was a mashup
Nice.
of that, and I said that it served as it creates a place for black cosplayers to go to find other people like them, even if you're in a community where you were the only black person around for miles and miles and miles and miles. To see other people who look like you doing the thing that you love, and know that you're not weird, you're not wrong. You can, and also to give love to each other, because a lot of black cosplayers have gotten pushback when they cosplay as characters who don't. There was one cosplayer who dressed like Sailor Venus from Sailor Moon, and she got a lot of bullshit off of her costume. Like, how dare you do this? You don't look authentic. She's not black. Why would you do that? Why don't you just play one of the black characters? And then also you get people who decide to cosplay as a black character and they just go in blackface. Or cosplay as
That's
an
fun.
Asian character and they go in yellowface and do dumb stuff like taping their eyelids down. And, so you still have all of that, but so it's a lot. It's a whole lot. And then cosplaying as a woman of color adds a whole extra layer to it, because as soon as you put on a costume, people feel like they have ownership of you in a way. So there are all these levels, but the community is bigger. I've found definitely from when I've started to now, the community is way bigger than they would have you think. And all of these, especially because a lot of the bigger publications, when they do slideshows of like the best cosplay of Comic-Con, it'll be only white people.
Yeah.
And only like thin, thin, long legged models or really muscly dudes all dressed up, and you're like, well, I just want to dress up like my favorite character. Can I do that? It's like, no,
Just came out here having a
sorry.
good time.
What are your body
Go be an
measurements?
attack.
Oh, no, you can't do that. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're in a wheelchair? Then you need to figure out a costume where you can just hide your
Right,
chair.
right.
You can't be Iron Man.
Yeah.
You can't be, so it's, we trash. But now we say no to that. Be who you want to be. Especially now.
Yeah.
It's like, nope.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Fuck you, yes I can.
I think a lot in the finding the joy in it is really, it is the inverse of finding something you enjoy, but also just kind of taking the restrictions off of what you are told is, not something that you should enjoy or something that, doesn't belong to you. Because the reality is, for a lot of the things that we are claiming are things that are not necessarily meant for us, right? So that definitely plays into the, cosplaying while black. Because the reality is, most of the popular characters do not look like us, right? And they were not coded as us. The dumbest argument that we get in all the time, not you and I, I'm talking about.
That's how you know you made it when your comments are trash. So
Yes,
that's the key
that's
to
the key.
success. We're here.
Whenever a character is introduced, especially in comics, not coded the way that they were they were originally, right? So the latest of that, it happened at the same time with Thor being a woman,
Yes.
and with Captain America being a black character.
When Sam Wilson got the title.
And so, man, we fought with a lot of fanboys over that.
And then, then there's the cover of them kissing, which is kind of like Marvel trolling the trolls.
Basically,
Yeah.
basically. Or the fact, and it's risen in more prominence, but it was popular before. Miss Marvel, who previously was a dynamo blonde-haired white woman who passed on that title. She's Captain Marvel now. Ms. Marvel now is a Pakistani American, is a practicing from New Jersey. That's a practicing Muslim, right? So, as you would imagine, with this current administration, she's been a symbol of pushback against a lot of things. And it's not just fan service. Like we've been loving this character since she came on the scene. But now she's like prominent because of the politics that we're facing.
Icon.
She's great, and it's well written.
Yeah.
A lot of these.
Right.
Hey, Willow Wilson, doing the Lord's
You're doing the Lord's work. And the thing that always kills me is like, okay, I remember we got into an argument with someone on Facebook when it got announced that Ben Affleck was going to be Batman and Batman vs Superman. And Omar, what has Batman vs Superman done for us?
Not a goddamn thing. If you see Batman vs Superman, you can survive anything.
Yeah.
Nothing can break you.
Nothing can harm you.
Nothing can break you.
Nothing
It's a
can-
fucking time suck. It will take you back in time. It's the first movie I saw in my life where I tried to put myself to sleep to make myself get through it. I couldn't do it.
So
Nothing can break it if you see that movie.
when it got announced that Ben Affleck was going to be Batman, and the collective groan across the nerd culture, and I remember, I think I posted it on Facebook, and I remember Omar was like, "Yo, like Idris Elba should have been Bruce Wayne like a long time ago,
Yeah.
right?"
Wow.
If we're talking, if we're being real.
And people were like, "But it's Batman. Batman can't be black." It was like,
But it's Idris Elba.
Right,
Idris Elba can be
right.
any fucking thing.
right.
Well, that was even worse.
Yeah.
Neither
No,
James
he was
Bond.
too rough
He's
to
too
be
street.
James Bond.
He's too
Yeah,
street.
he's too street.
Too street.
He's too street.
And
in the distance, dark.
and what's amazing about this argument is, I definitely have written on this a couple times. If you tell me that Superman can't be black because Superman has always been white, I'm going to remind you of when Superman was created and what the country looked like at the time. And to state that back in the 30s, when Superman was created, and then quote that time period, and that is your reason why we can't change the race of Superman now, is to say, well, when shit was really, really racist, right, like legally racist,
We don't rap raw racist.
we're going to go back to that time and use that as the source of why this can never be changed, right? And that's obviously ridiculous on a lot of different levels. And so that's usually the biggest outrage when that happens. Like when Zendaya got announced that I think now, was it announced that she was Mary Jane, or was that just taken back?
It's like a rumor. But
It was announced that I thought it was announced that she was Mary Jane, but in the trailer it didn't look like she was.
They said
Mary Jane.
they were
No.
like she's not. She's
She doesn't.
Yeah.
But
They
when
never said it.
when the
Yeah.
speculation was that she was going to be Mary Jane, then it wasn't that Zendaya wasn't white. It's that, oh well, she doesn't have red hair, because no one's ever worn a wig or dyed their hair for a movie ever in life, right?
And because
Kirsten Dunst. Yeah.
she's a natural redhead.
Well, she's a terrible actress, but
She's not, but she's not. She's a blonde.
And
How do you really
the director pointed that out too. Like he was like, "Oh, so you have no problem with this then?" She's
Right.
dyed in red. You guys like, well, it's not.
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah, and so we experience a lot of, basically very very coded language now, right? So, in the way that, well, you shouldn't. It's really really bad to say nigger, so we'll just call him a thug, right? In that kind of way, we see a lot of that in media to justify very closed off sentiments, very very much tunnel vision in terms of how people look at us, and so I think one of the things we do in our writing is like we just call that out, Yes.
Question, sorry. So
No,
do
you're
you
fine.
think the ownership is on us versus to have him follow his beautiful daughter as a
Thank you.
I love him follow his beautiful daughter.
Thank you. It was a question on a trivia game we did, and no one knew the answer.
So I thank you for it.
That should the onus be on us, because it was an article to say, or the book that I'm reading, is like inventing superheroes that are black by white writers versus
Ooh, we talked about
superheroes
this.
or whatever invented by us. Where's the ownership of getting out the images and that kind of content?
Well, I think, and I don't want to speak for everyone here. I just kind of off the top, I would say for me, I'm an owner because I'm paying for the shit, right? Like, this is my entertainment or whatever that I'm consuming. No, that does not mean that every fan has a word in how everything is created. But at the same time, I'm not going to feel bad for voicing my opinion on something that I'm paying to see or watch or whatever.
We can stop paying to see it.
Well, yeah, then stop paying to see it. And to your point, like wrapping it up, like not wrapping it up, but like tying that into how we were talking about comic books. So we're having like this crisis of conscience right now, because just a little background. So the Spider-Man that is the proper Spider-Man in Marvel right now is Miles Morales. Miles Morales is black and Latino. So this was very much a shock to the system when he was created as a character. Brian Michael Bendis, who was the writer and created that character, took a lot of flack for that. I remember Glenn Beck getting up on his boards and saying some shit about that. I remember Michelle Obama got blamed for this somehow.
It's ours.
Yeah. It's like I would love to give Michelle Obama credit for Miles Morales, give her credit for every goddamn thing anyway. So I remember, so now the character's been around for 5-6 years or something, and the character is changing in a way that I'm not entirely comfortable with. There's been a couple of things that have kind of hinted at this, and full disclosure for it, Brian Michael Bendis is white. And there was a couple, and so Omar and I actually, we review the comic together, so we trade off every month. And it was a joke because Omar kept getting the issues that were handling race like really clumsily, and I was getting all the good action ones.
There's one issue.
But the scene in particular, I definitely want you to hit.
No, when there's that issue where he Miles teams up with Kamala Khan, and Will's like having a fucking joyous time writing this review. He's like throwing the issue up in the air and catching it, and I'm just sitting there like, I get the issue where he's like, I don't want to be known as Black Spider-Man. I just want to be known as Spider-Man. I'm like, we don't talk like that.
Yeah, and just like some very.
Him and Gank with the body issue versus
Yeah.
the race issue. Like, you're black in New York, doesn't matter anymore. And it's like,
Some of the politics around that, and so now we're kind of faced with it, right? Like we liked Miles Morales as a character for years, we liked what he represented, and we rooted for him. But now we're kind of faced with this as Brian Michael Bendis being a white writer that is voicing Miles in a way that I'm not entirely comfortable with, especially when he is attempting to represent blackness in a certain way. And so, especially when it comes to kind of the politics around it. And so, like, that's something that we've been like talking about a lot. How do we reconcile this, right? Because we want to like this character, we want to support the writer who created this character, but now, actually, I think the resolution that we have is like, we think Brian needs to pass this
Yeah, the
character.
resolution is
We
we
need-
have to stick to someone that can handle the character, a person of color that can do that,
Right.
a black person that can do that. Because phase 1 is seeing all these black characters come up. That's great. Now we like to see black voices behind them, like to see queer voices behind them. This is phase 2.
Right.
Not just having the same people writing these with the same white male voice writing these characters. You need more women. You need more women of color. You need more black characters, black writers.
I think so. Part of, like, for me, because I'm not a comic book nerd, is like fuck mainstream things. So like in the next like 2 weeks, or last week, I interviewed a black female director who's directing a web series about polyamory and family situation. Next week, I'm interviewing 2 young black queer women who have also done a web series. So part of it, like for me, like, and Omar can test this, like we go to watch a movie to review it, and if the trailer doesn't have black people in it, I'm not, unless I'm literally watching it to review it for Black Nerd Problems, I'm not interested. Like, I get
You're like,
mad.
this looks great. Like, oh, what the fuck is this?
So I mean, part of it is, I don't know, I mean, I agree with the phase 1, phase 2 thing, but I'm kind of jumping to phase 2. Like, if the big houses aren't willing to put out the movies that reflect my life,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go find the small people who are doing it, because, like, thank you, internet gods.
Yeah.
I can make a movie right now. Like, I mean, and that's what I'm interested in. And like last 2 weeks ago, Brittany and I, last week, time, not good with it.
Last week.
We hosted a screening for Brown Girls, also a web series about young brown, like, and that's what I'm interested in. And I'm interested in not brownness and blackness through the lens of a white person, like how they think we talk or how they think we live. I would really much rather see what we are making, and that may mean I have to go to NYU and sit in a theater to see it, because I can't go to AMC to watch it. I mean, and that's kind of a personal choice that I've made.
And I'm ready to give up on Star Wars. As soon as they put out as soon as they put out the poster for the cast of the new Han Solo like spin-off movie, and I saw not a single black woman in it, and I'm like, you are about to have
It is
11 movies,
canon
and
now.
you don't have a single black woman who is named in the movie and who has more than
Shoot 30
20 seconds.
for
Yeah.
In the Star Wars comic book, which is considered right now canon, Han Solo's estranged wife is black. Like, why is this not a reason to have her in the movie? It's astounding. It's
So,
astounding.
it's like at this point, like as much as I love the Star Wars universe, and as much as I'm like, I want to be a Jedi, and I want to have a lightsaber, and all this, and I want to be like Shakespeare with lightsabers. If you
Wait.
look, that's a separate thing. But so to think, okay, y'all have put out. It's 9, 10. Y'all are about to put out 11 movies, and I can't find myself in a single movie except for one like hand shot of a black woman as her planet glows up, and then this random fabulous woman decked out in gold at this meeting. I'm like, those are the only 2, and y'all, I don't even know their names. I don't know that. Do they have names?
It's the bait and switch too. It's
It
the
is.
black woman in the commercial, but not
Yeah.
in the movie, which is particularly insulting, because you know we want it.
Yeah.
So that's why you put it in the commercial, but you won't give it.
And
to
that
us
was her
in
whole
the movie.
scene. That was all she did. The little I mean, maybe she got like an extra 7 seconds in the movie.
Right.
But yeah,
I
it's
keep my
like
stuff.
but it's stuff like that. I'm at the point now where I'm like, fine, y'all don't want my money, I'm not gonna give it to you. I will go to somebody who does want it, because there are.
Hopefully Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean,
Star
but
Trek, well,
I need
yeah.
some more. I need, because Zoe Saldana is problematic in her.
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the new series.
No, we're talking about
The new
TV.
series.
Oh yes, the TV series.
We
yes.
are not talking about Zoe Saldana. Not today.
No, we're
I ain't got that much time, man.
The lead for the new Star Trek series is a black woman.
And they have Michelle Yeoh, who is amazing and everything is fabulous, and the only woman that Jackie Chan let do her own stunts.
I know we are bumping up against the time, aren't we? Okay, you're still okay.
I'm gonna shut this shit down
yeah,
right now.
Everybody. thank you for coming in and listening to us ramble and rant and basically talk to each other and address you every once in a while. I appreciate that.
Is there time for one more question?
Is there time for one more question if someone has one?
Just give us
Yes.
some things that we should watch.
Oh, yes.
Brown girls.
Atlanta.
Brown girls.
Safe for work or not safe for work?
Good Lord.
Oh,
No, that's real.
Is
yeah,
that
that's
right?
real.
No, like he's asking, where will you be watching?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Brown girls. Atlanta.
Round up is online.
Yeah.
I like conversion.
What?
Conversion.
Conversion?
Spelled pretty much like it sounds, except that last A would be an O, the conversion.
If you check out
Chewing
their
gum?
website, they probably.
Yeah, we've got all kinds.
Would be a good guy.
Chewing gum.
Oh,
That's my favorite show.
If you like, we've talked about if you like sci-fi. I am on The Expanse, which is in season 2 right now.
do you know what we could do? We could tweet these
We could tweet
suggestions
these
out
out?
afterwards,
Yes.
because if you
Yeah.
try to randomly write them down, you're
Right.
gonna miss them, so we can say them, but then also tweet them out afterwards.
Yeah.
And then, did you already say yours?
I'm not. I'm in a void right now. But
Yeah,
I'll put gangster on my shit.
Oh yeah, we're gonna put some anime in there. Sure.
Anime called gangster is really good.
Yes.
But I mean, also there are some things that I can't let go. Like I'm like, fuck you, Star Wars. At this point, I'm gonna let you go. But
So bad,
there
Star
are some
Wars.
things that, like, if that is your fandom and if that is something that you love, watch it. But watch it with a critical eye, and don't feel like just because you love something you can't critique it, and just because you critique something you can't love it.
Yeah, and my stance. So many people are just like, why don't you just enjoy it? It's like, well, if I wasn't invested, then I wouldn't give a shit and I wouldn't be talking about it. It's because I do, and I want it to be better and I want it to be great. Is why I have this critical eye on it, why I have an opinion on it. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Our Twitter is what we'll tweet some of these out.
Yeah.
Is you can, if you just put in Black Nerd Problems, you'll find us, but it's BLKNRD Problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I didn't know if we shortened that enough.
No.
What's that? Oh, where?
Are you going back to work?
Me? No, I told him I wasn't doing it today. I put in,
I ain't never coming back, son.
put in, 60 plus hours. I've been working every day except for Saturday since Thursday.
No, thank you.
But I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you.
Here's the thing that I don't know that I feel like I need to ask.